Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're doing another seasonal championship. This one's called Street Endurance. Yeah, we're going to be in modern sports cars, so yeah, a couple of these are have been added to the game via either the car pass or...
Turn left.
Actually just car pass, actually, now thinking about it. So yeah, unfortunately no cars from the festival playlist are included in this, which is a bit of a shame. I wish these seasonal championships did kind of prioritise festival players cars or car pass cars in their their categories of choosing what to use in seasonal championships. Because yeah, even though this Lincoln Co here that's recently added to the festival players is a more of a sports saloon, not a sports car, it would be nice to be able to use it in a seasonal championship. But I have been using it myself in A-class racing, and it's been pretty successful on there, to be honest.
In 400
seems
yards,
to be
turn sharp left.
yeah, pretty good one, to be honest. I'm not the only one that's been driving it as well, which is something that surprised me.
Turn sharp left.
Because yeah, whenever I've been in the likes of the Audi e-tron, for instance, that was the only car that I was the only one ever in one of those, really. I think I only saw one other person in them, whereas I saw several different people in this Lincoln Co. But regardless, let's see where we're going to be racing and what we're going to be racing in. Hopefully some stuff that is fast. So yeah, this is one of those 5 race championships that they've recently started doing, so we get a bigger variety of cars to choose from, basically. So we've got 3 versions of the Audi TT. So we've got the newer version that has been added via the festival playlist. No, the car pass even, sorry again. But yeah, 400 horsepower, which is not slouchy at all, and as you can see, far more than its older versions. Then we've got the Bmw Z4 Roadster, a car that I actually really rather like. Then the Lotus Exige S, a Mercedes-Benz SLK 55 AMG. Not my favourite version of the SLK 55, I do prefer the generation prior to this, but this is still a pretty good one with its naturally aspirated V8 engine. Then we've got the Porsche Cayman GTS, and another version of the GTS, but as you can see, difference in power and weight. The 718 there is slightly heavier, but you can see it's got 21 extra horsepower and nearly 40 extra pounds-feet of torque, 37 pounds-feet of torque extra. So yeah, I think the extra weight doesn't really blunt the performance of the 718 there, but as you can see, it's got better handling and braking. And then finally we've got the Toyota Gr Supra. So yeah, which is basically the Z4 Roadster there, but with a hardtop and slightly heavier as well as a result of that. So yeah, we're going to go with the 718 Cayman GTS because it's not a car I think I've driven before on this game, or at least not driven much, and I certainly don't think I've driven it on one of these series. But yeah, even though it is essentially a Boxster with a roof, it is still a really rather formidable sports car, as you can see by its stats. And yeah, pretty potent amount of power as well, while not weighing all that much either. So yeah, let's see what it can do in comparison to whoever else we're going to be driving against. So yeah, I think these 5 race championships are good because it means that you're not necessarily going to go for just the cars that you normally would go for, which is something that I am guilty of doing on these championships. When it's the 3 race ones, I prioritise the ones I mostly enjoy driving or favour, even if they're not technically the best car to drive. So yeah, with 5 races, because I like to use a different car for each race if possible, I'll definitely be driving at least 1 or 2 cars that I would normally drive. This is one of them. Because yeah, I'm not a fan of the way this car looks, but performance wise and handling wise, it's definitely a car that I can respect. I particularly love it. It's definitely a capable car. It's got second most horsepower out of the cars here? No, third most horsepower out of the cars here. The Audi Tt Rs and the Mercedes-Benz are the other 2 more powerful cars. This is probably way better balanced than those cars, and definitely lighter as well. As much power as that Mercedes has got going for it, it's a bit of a heavy car, and Despite being an AMG, it's far from the most sporty either. Which, to be fair, the previous generation had a problem with, but we find the V8 engine in that a lot more potent. It's also lighter than the newer generation that we have on here, which we really did wish we had the prior generation of the SLK that we have on here, because it is glorious. Easily one of the best sounding V8 engines going. Seems to have gained a bit of a lead. Guaranteed. Since it's wet and this is rear wheel drive and it's quite a tail happy car. Really wish we had the Boxster back on this game, on this series should I say. Why that's one car that has been left by the wayside compared to all the other Porsches that we've had. I've had a Boxster for a while, in fact. Hell, I'm not even sure if Porsche is still making it. I've not really kept up on that kind of news. Yeah, definitely pulled out a big lead here with the Porsche. Hard to work out why with the local power it's got, and the fact it doesn't weigh very much. So yeah, pretty convincing win there from the Cayman. Nice big gap between us and second, I believe. Yeah, nearly 4 seconds, which is pretty sizable. But yeah, the Subaru Gr Z there had been upgraded to get into this class, but that's the only other car there that we couldn't drive. So yeah, but there we go, 20 points in the bag, so let's move on to the second race. Right, for this second race, we've obviously not got much in the way of variety in terms of countries, so, but, you know, yeah, to break it up a little bit, we'll go with something from, we'll go for Japan, we'll go for Toyota Gr Supra. Not the most powerful car here by any means, but it's got a healthy amount of torque. Doesn't weigh all that much in comparison to some cars here. You know, the Mercedes weighs more. The Audi Tt Rs, for instance, doesn't weigh much less, so yeah, but still, 335 horsepower is still fairly decent. It's nearly 50-50 weight distribution, so nearly bang on in that regard, and it's got pretty good handling as well. So, but yeah, not the most impressive car that we've seen that's been added to this game, or is part of this game by any means, but obviously it is a new car to the Forza series overall, so I was pleased that it was added, even if, you know, it's not quite as great as it should be considering the badge it's wearing, you know, compared to the previous Supras, and yeah, it's not as great as those cars. To be honest, I'm not even talking about the RZ version, I'm talking, you know, even older versions that I really love and enjoyed from Supras, from Toyota with the Supra brand, so yeah, but still, let's see what it can do here. An MX-5 to be in here as well. Oh dear. I completely missed that, given I was looking behind me. Right, now we've got some major time to make up now. The MX-5 was distracting me. Don't expect to see one of those upgraded into this class. There's a BRZ as well. I was surprised by how people were taken aback a bit by the fact that Toyota collaborated with BMW with this car, which, to be honest, as far as I was concerned, wasn't all that surprising at all, given that, you know, Toyota collaborated with Subaru with between the GT86 and the BRZ that's in front of us. So, you know, Toyota have done it before, where they've collaborated with another manufacturer to make a sports car. As you know, all see sports cars aren't nowadays, at least, all that profitable, so, you know, to split the cost, they're bound to, you know, collaborate with others, so it makes sense in that regard. I think even Mazda did it with Fiat, didn't they, with the Fiat's most recent sports car, so know, if it, you know, at the end of the day gives us more sports cars, I'm not fussed who they collaborate with, or whether or not that means you've got two effectively similar cars, as long as, you know, they're getting made. And at least, you know, with the Supra and the Z4, they at least made the wise decision to make sure the Supra was the hard top version, and the Z4 was the soft top version, so at least they are different in that regard. Yeah, it's still a solid sports car in its own right, but considering the weight of the legacy behind it, I guess it would be impossible not to be disappointed in some regard, but definitely feel they could have done a better job in certain areas. The engine is the weakest part of this car, quite frankly, because even though it's got a decent amount of power and torque, it doesn't sound particularly great. Obviously the same issue with the Z4, especially when you compare it to previous Z4s, which had really rather nice natural gas rated inline sixes. But I've definitely heard worse engine noises. And at the end of the day, this is still really rather quite fun to drive, especially when you slide it around. Again, a decent sized lead. It probably was a little bit trickier to get up to that lead in the first place over the likes of the Cayman, but it's just the way it is sometimes. But yeah, that gives us another 20 points, meaning we're now 12 points ahead of a fellow Supra and 16 points ahead of us SLK. So yeah, let's get on to the third race and see if we can continue this winning streak. So we've picked two cars in a row that, even though I kind of like, I'm not massively in love with, so let's go for a car that I really do like, and that is the Audi Tt Rs. Now before this version I wasn't the biggest fan of the Audi Tt Rs, or even the Tt Rs versions, because I felt that they were decent but they were lacking in, you know, real oomph or, you know, staying power. But yeah, they've definitely corrected it with this, given it's got, you know, 400 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. Yes, it weighs more than the previous versions, but as you can see, in comparison to the 2010 version, you know, we're only, what, 12 pounds more, and yet, as you can see, we've got 65 extra horsepower and 22 extra pounds-feet of torque. So, yeah, no doubt that this is a potent car, and its handling and braking is pretty good as well, but obviously the launch and acceleration is where it's at with this, with the all-wheel drive system and the torquey turbocharged engine. So, yeah, let's see if this can keep our winning streak going. Hope it can, because like I said, I do really rather enjoy it, and it'll be a bit of a humiliation if the first car that we choose on this championship that I properly like is the one that gives us our first, you know, non-winning position. So definitely got the launch. As far as that Supra got off as quick as it did though. 400 horsepower is hard to argue with. The SLK would struggle to keep up with this, given it's got that extra weight. Extra 200 pounds and only 15 extra horsepower isn't that much, quite frankly. And this is really rather properly agile. Even though it obviously has that all-wheel drive system, it's super agile getting through the corners and, well, crucially, dodging the traffic when it comes to these street races. Obviously, street races have AI traffic and they can spoil any race if you're not careful. As I have found out on online racing, when doing these street races, which at times can be quite chaotic. About this, so it's got the security and the, you know, the reassurance of all-wheel drive, but it's still a car that you can slide around and have plenty of fun with. Which means it's pretty much got the best of both worlds, even though obviously it is quite front heavy. It's 61% at the front, which is pretty much on the side of hot hatch batch territory, which is obviously not all that sports car like, but it's able to handle that kind of power and that weight at the front really rather well. Gain on the BMW. Oh, we are going to lose. I jinxed myself. Oh well. I guess it wasn't me at fault there for sliding around a bit too much. But still, second place is still going to give us 16 points. And it shouldn't eat into our lead too much. Yeah, we're still 12 points ahead of the Z4, which again has been upgraded to get into this class. Yeah, still well ahead of the SLK by 14 points. So, yeah. Unfortunate that we didn't get a win there, but it's, as you can see, not harmed our chances too badly. So let's get on to the fourth race. So I figured it's high time to go for something a little bit more track orientated, and that's going to be the Lotus Exige S. It's a joint, joint second oldest here with the Mercedes there, but as you can see, the lightest here as well by a substantial margin, 2,593 pounds. And yet it's still got 345 horsepower. Granted, it's not got the most torque here. As you can see, it's less than the 718, less than the Gr Supra, obviously less than the Mercedes, less than the Z4, and less than 2 of the 3 Audi Audi TTs. So, yeah, not the torquiest car going, but with that little amount of weight and the fact that these cars are all generally really well good in terms of handling, it should be pretty good here. So let's see what it can do. Let's see if we can claw back a win. Do wish we had the more modern Lotus vehicles, because obviously the only properly new Lotus vehicle that we have on this game is the Avaya. But I would like new combustion engine versions of cars from Lotus. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is the newest combustion engine car we have from them. And yeah, it's 10 years old, so yeah, it's not particularly new either, to be honest. So yeah, I do wish we had more from them. There are other sports cars from manufacturers that I would also like to have on this game, like the Maserati, I forgot the name of it, but it's a cracking car. Really wish that was on this game, and yeah, a whole bunch of cars really. And not just new ones either, obviously, because I'm more into my classics, and yeah, there are several classic Lotus vehicles, for instance, that we still haven't had on this game. In fact, the oldest Lotus that we've ever had has been the Elan, and yeah, as good as that car is for a lightweight sports car from the time, I would like even more from them, to be honest. Oh dear, I'll break myself. Figured I had the braking time, obviously not. Tell that this weighs a good 700, 800 pounds less as most of these cars on this championship. RX-8 has clearly been upgraded to get into this class as well. Not a bad car, the RX-8. I was particularly a fan of the Wankel rotary engines and engine noise. Never really floated my boat. The closest it's come to a car that I've enjoyed the sound of has been the RX-7 Savannah. But yeah, most of them just don't really get along with, to be honest. Definitely engines that have their plus points, so I see why people do like them. Although I don't think anyone actually makes them anymore. I don't think Mazda do. One of those engines that had a great potential, but just never could break free from the fact that at the end of the day, unless it's properly maintained and properly looked after, it's to failure. That's usually why you find them very, very cheap nowadays, especially high mileage RX-7s or RX-8s. But yeah, still, the Lotus gave us a win there, so yeah, made up for the previous race, giving us another 20 points. And yeah, widening our lead by 16 over the second place and 20 over third. So yeah, let's get on to the fifth and final race to see if we can seal off this championship with a win. Right, so even though I am tempted by the Z4, given, you know, it's got a pretty sizable amount of power, way more than this Gr Supra, weirdly enough. I'm also kind of tempted by the SLK, to be honest. I know it's not the best handling car here, as you can see, it's slightly worse than the Z4, although the braking is actually a little bit better. It's obviously acceleration's worse, and yeah, its launch isn't quite as good, but there's no doubt that this has huge firepower, 415 horsepower for its 5.5 litre V8 engine, and yeah, a healthy amount of torque as well. The torquiest engine here as well, by a fair decent amount of margin as well. So yeah, not the sportiest of sports cars, but it's hopefully going to be a one that can, you know, end this championship with a win. But yeah, still, like I said in previous races, I really wish we had the previous generation of the SLK 55, because that's a glorious car, and I don't think we've had it since one of the early Forza Motorsport games, so yeah, I would like to see a return, but we might be, quite frankly, but regardless, let's see what this version can do. As you can see on the straight, it's just going to eat up these cars. That amount of horsepower and torque is just hard to argue with. Well, unless you're a Gr Supra who wants to get in the way, that is. Also probably got the best standing engine here, even if I'm not a massive fan of it over the previous generation. Get out of the way, Subarus. Definitely not the best handling car that we've used, but it's probably the worst even. Definitely feels a lot more of a cruiser than a sports car. But at least it does have that large engine going for it, which means that we can swallow up little Subarus on the straight. Well, let's try to. Gobbling up, gobbling up. Oh, he pushed me into his fellow Subaru there. That's bad play. I'm allowed to use AI traffic to your advantage. slide. Don't even know if Mercedes still do the SLK either, to be honest. Quite frankly, sports cars seem to be a dying breed in the fact that I'm not even sure whether or not some well-established names are still around. It's a shame. But it's just the age of the SUV, really, isn't it? It has been for a while. Anyone that can make them is making them. That's not really the best thing going, to be honest. But still, the SLK, despite not being the best handling car there, is still able to get a win. Purely due to its huge power reserves. Yeah, easily outmatched most cars here. So yeah, another 20 points, giving us 96 overall, 20 ahead of the Toyota 86 and 26 ahead of the Subaru BRZ. So yeah, fun championship. I do like these 5 race ones a little bit more than the 3 race ones, especially when you got a wide variety of cars to choose from. Obviously I'd like them a lot less if it was only like a 1-mate championship and we only had 2 or 3 cars to choose from. But we only got like 10 here I think we had to choose from. You've got a nice variety of cars to use in those 5 races. So yeah, I really do like them, and I just wish that though festival playlist cars and car pass vehicles were given priority when creating these championships, because at the end of the day you want to use them. You bought them or you've worked for them, and yeah, you just want to use them in as many races as you can possibly. But yeah, regardless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.